Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. We are moving into the fall, but before we talk about our subject today, I'd like to welcome back to the show our co-host all the way down in Los Angeles. How you doing today, Chris?
Doing good. It is a record heat wave in Los Angeles right now. It's supposed to be 107 or 8 degrees in Burbank on Sunday.
Oh
so
my gosh.
I don't know what we're going to do. It is not the fall yet.
No pumpkin spice latte for you.
No, although they do have pumpkin cream cold brew, which is my jam.
I have not tried that with the cold brew. I bet you that's pretty good.
It's really good.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we are going to turn our focus to the fall. Believe it or not. Well, they've already been having Halloween parties in Florida. I don't know if it started at Disneyland yet.
I think they did media previews last week or something because California Adventure closed early last Saturday. So I thought that could have maybe been what was going on. But no, they are not doing the Halloween parties as early out here. And honestly, cannot imagine going to a Halloween party in the humidity of Florida in the middle of August. What?
I think I was down there. Actually, I had an Orlando layover and they were having their first Halloween party that day. And I was like, it's not on my radar yet. So I don't know.
I mean, costumes. What would you do if you had like a costume that made you warm in any way?
I don't know. I think, I'm trying to think like what you would even wear. I mean, like the Incredibles costumes, maybe. I don't know. Are they light enough to not if you have the fake muscles, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, I don't even know.
Okay. All right. Well, we are going to turn our focus to Halloween on the High Seas. Disney Cruise Line's celebration of Halloween in the fall season. The first sailing is getting ready to set sail September 11th. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Chris, you and I have been on Halloween on the High Seas sailings before. What is Halloween on the High Seas?
So basically, you all know that Disney has a couple of annual special sailings. There are Halloween on the High Seas and Very Merry Time. And it used to be that they wouldn't tell you which was going to be which. And then you would just find out later that your cruise that you booked happened to be a Halloween on the High Seas. But lately, they've just been saying, yes, this is going to be a Halloween on the High Seas, or this is going to be a Christmas Very Merry Time cruise. But it is a celebration of Halloween. We have never seen what Halloween on the High Seas is going to look like on the Wish. But on all the other ships, it sort of revolves around like a pumpkin tree, and they offer trick-or-treating for little ones. They have some special programs. They usually do like a 3D showing of, or rather like in theater effects showing of Nightmare Before Christmas with like the snow and the stuff like that. So there are lots of different Halloween things that we're going to be talking about today. And that's what it is.
And I think you sailed on it last year, right? Am I correct? After the pandemic or as the ship started sailing again?
Yeah, we sailed on it on the Wonder. We were actually on the ship on Halloween. So it was like an actual Halloween on the High Seas. And it was cool. It was fun.
It'd be kind of cool to actually be there on the holidays. So we sailed right before you on the Wonder as well. And then we did one on the Dream right before the pandemic started. So I think last year, as we kind of talked about the Very Merry Time sailings and Halloween on the High Seas sailings, they were a little bit light on some of the activities just due to COVID and some of the protocols that they were going through. So hopefully this year they've kind of expanded some of the things that they are going to do. And it should be a little bit more, hopefully there's going to be a little bit more activities than what they had last year when we experienced it. So well, let's take a look at which ships are sailing on Halloween on the High Seas itineraries. Actually, all 5 are. The first one, as I was talking about earlier, is the Disney Magic. Her first sailing is going to be September 11th, 2022 out of Miami. It features a 4-night cruise to the Bahamas with stops at Nassau and Castaway Cay. The Dream will be sailing Halloween on the High Seas sailings to the Bahamas and the Western Caribbean out of Miami. The Wonder will be down in San Diego again, heading down to Mexico. We are actually going on a We get off Halloween day, which is kind of sad.
Oh,
I know we're doing a 3-day, but we get off on Halloween. So we'll be on there just right before that. So we'll be able to report back on that a little bit. And then the Wish and the Fantasy are out of Port Canaveral. I found this one sailing if anybody's interested, if you this is in your budget to do it or whatever else. But the fantasy has an 8-night sailing October 29th. So you'd be on it on Halloween with stops at St. Martin, St. John, St. Thomas, and Castaway Key, a little bit different offering there. And if you're looking into 2023 already, the 2023 fall sailings are out and they've got them listed as well as far as the different ships and where they will be sailing to. So
that's where they're going. Let's talk a little bit about what the decorations are like on the ships, because really when we talk about these holiday overlays, it is a lot about the decorations. In this case, I mentioned earlier, there's going to be the sort of spooky Halloween tree in the lobby. And in years past, there have been like storytelling events that revolved around this tree. There have been like the tree sort of like blooms pumpkins as the cruise progresses. And it has some like lighting and smoke effects and things like that around it. They specifically advertised an updated concept for this for the Wish. So I think all of us are very curious what this tree is going to look like on the Wish. They do vinyl clings on the portholes. They make them look like jack-o'-lantern faces. There's Halloween music that's sort of played around the ship during the cruise. They apparently have themed cups. News to me, but I also sailed it during the pandemic. So like there was nothing like that, but themed cups. And then they did have some themed desserts like, oh, look, it's dirt with worms in it and a gravestone chocolate and stuff like that. So that is sort of the decorative touches around the ship. I would say, I don't know if you agree, Steve, it's fairly light in the decorative touches. You could easily escape the Halloween theme if you don't spend too much time in the atrium.
really, yeah, really it's the atrium. And then I think some of the guests, go out a little bit as far as decorating their doors. And so you'll see a lot of like doors with different magnets on it, kind of celebrating Halloween and whatnot. But that's a good point too. This is not Halloween, every minute of the day on your 3-day, 4-day, 7-day cruise or anything like that. They're going to have basically one day where they kind of celebrate it. And then it's just kind of like, as you said, kind of themed light other than the lobby with the Halloween tree and some of the buntings and whatnot that they have up. And then the rest of the ship, in all honesty, kind of feels the same. So it's sort of, it's not like going to the Mickey's, why can't I find it?
Not so scary.
Not so scary, where you're going to be around that just 24/7 for your 7 days or anything like that. But this year, Chris, this is why I really wanted to bring you on, because they are going to feature Hocus Pocus amongst some of the different experiences that you can have. I got to show my age. I'm still out in the pumpkin patch with Linus, waiting for the great pumpkin to come. And so this whole Hocus Pocus thing is like gone over my head, but somebody tells me it's important. Why is Hocus Pocus important? And why is this going to be special for, I think, a lot of people sailing?
Because millennials are old enough to start spending money. So Disney's like, oh, we better give them a bone. And a millennial bone is 100% the Sanderson sisters. Like, we love Hocus Pocus as a general rule. I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I'm 35 and then Christy's 10 years older than me and you're 10 years older than Christy. So we really cover the bases here. And you're right. It would be inappropriate for you to talk about Hocus Pocus with anyone besides me, because that was iconic. That was my childhood. I watched that movie every single Halloween. But I don't want to bury the lead on this one. The reason they're doing this additionally is because this year, after decades of petitioning, we have a sequel to Hocus Pocus coming out with the original cast. And it's being released straight to Disney Plus, so you can stream it, I think, starting at the end of September. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how excited I am.
Any word yet on the movie? Is anything leaked out as far as like, are people excited about it?
I mean, when they were filming it, there were so many things on Twitter of people like filming the cast in their costumes or like, them taking over. It's really confusing, honestly, because if you've seen Hocus Pocus, you know that there were some deaths at the end. So I don't know how the Sanderson sisters are just like back, But you know what? Through the magic of magic, you can magic people into any situation. So I'm sure it's going to be fine. We're all going to suspend our disbelief. And Disney's been testing these sorts of concepts, right? Because in Magic Kingdom, they did a Sanderson Sisters themed stage show starting a couple years back, and it was super popular. You'll remember the famous Bette Midler singing I Put a Spell on You. It just fits the vibe. So why not? I mean, Disney also has really struggled to find their niche in Halloween, right? Because Disney fans are like, not too scary, please. We don't want our kids to be scared. But people are also like desperate for Halloween something. And so Disney's always walking that fine line between not too scary, but also still spooky.
I think they do a pretty good job. We're going to talk about something that we experienced a little bit later on here. So we've touched a little bit on some of the things that have been on in the past, and we can talk about, we can now turn what Disney's kind of said is going to happen this year. So this September and October, guests will run amok. I guess that's from Hocus Pocus.
Yes. Didn't you write this, or is that Disney speak?
That was Disney speaks.
Oh, well, you already said it wrong. It's amok.
See, there we go. Like I said, I'm still out there with Linus. On Halloween-themed cruises with special entertainment activities, including trick-or-treating, spooky parties, elaborate decor, and limited-time food and beverages. All of the characters will adorn Halloween costumes, but this year the sailing will feature a new meet and greet as Minnie, Daisy, and Clarabelle Cow. Can't forget about Clarabelle. She hasn't been on the ships, I think, ever. I don't know. I know she's in that one parade.
Also, it's just shady. You know which sister Clarabelle is going to be playing, and I can't handle it.
So Minnie, Daisy, and Clarabelle Cow will dress up as the iconic Halloween sisters, the Sandersons, from the movie Hocus Pocus. Chris, we talked a little bit about why Hocus Pocus is important to Disney. Why don't you jump in? And I think this is where we touch on the wish has changed to the magic pumpkin tree.
The switch here, so they're going to have these three characters playing the Sanderson sisters, which is just like high camp, in my opinion, that it is just meant to be like funny, campy. Look at these people dressing up in these Halloween costumes. You know, it's going to be fun. But one thing that they did announce, we keep mentioning the centerpiece of every ship is this magical pumpkin tree that has jack-o'-lanterns and flickering lights. But the Wish is going to feature this all-new tree that has a lighter colored bark, probably to match the like elegance of the Grand Hall. And legend has it that this enchanted tree named Boo grew beautiful gourds with the help of a wishing star. The best pumpkin of them all was destined to grant a very special wish. And that moment came when a carriage was needed to send a fair maiden to a royal soiree. In a flash of bippity-boppity boo, that perfect pumpkin became the coach that carried Cinderella to the princess ball. What a spectacular transformation. That is probably the most Disney speak I've ever spoken.
That was totally straight for the website.
Yeah, I was realizing that. That's so interesting. I don't think I really put two and two together that they were trying to make the pumpkin from the pumpkin tree be the pumpkin that turned into Cinderella's carriage. So there you go, folks. You heard it here first.
I'm super curious to see what this is, because are they going to actually turn a pumpkin into a carriage? Is a carriage going to come out and have Cinderella in it? Or I'm just really curious to see what they do with this. So we'll have to have somebody report back if you sail on the Wish during one of the Halloween on the High Seas sailings. Let us know what you get to see and experience during this.
Yeah, little did we know that Cinderella is actually a Halloween movie.
Yeah. All this time, who knew? And I guess one thing to kind of point out, in the past, generally, if you're on a shorter cruise, at least the Halloween tree story happens that first day.
Mm-hmm. So because they have to bloom the tree, right? Or the pumpkins have to grow throughout the rest of the sailing.
Yeah, and they're kind of limited in time when they do it. We'll talk about that I guess we could talk about that right now. So on the longer cruises, the Halloween will be celebrated later on in the sailing. So make sure that you get in the app and find out exactly when everything happens, because generally only things are going to happen once, and you don't want to miss it if this is the reason why you're sailing on it. But on the shorter sailings, especially the 3-night, the way it's worked in the past is that first night they had the pumpkin tree and the storytelling of the pumpkin tree that night, because the next morning is Halloween. Well, it's not Halloween, but that's when they kind of celebrate Halloween from the morning on into the afternoon. So they'll have trick or treating. So a lot of times those 3 days, if you're doing it out of Port Canaveral, you're in Nassau. If you're getting off in Nassau, you may miss the Halloween stuff. So something to kind of think about if you book one of these sailings. So Halloween will kind of last through midday, and then it transfers into the pirate day and the pirate party that night, because the next day you're at Castaway Cay and they can't do them both on that day. Does that make sense?
Right. I do forget that there's like a pirate combo moment happening.
That's the way it's been done in the past. Just be ready for it. So I guess my advice, or our advice, would be, once you get on board, especially if you're on the shorter sailings, really take a look at the app and find out when things are happening, because you may see that things are happening, that day, that first day of the sailing. So generally in the evening, after, either before or after your dinner times.
Another sort of like key part of this is the masquerade ball. So this is like an event that will take place on that Halloween celebration night. And it really just includes all the characters dressed up in their like Halloween finest. I'm trying to even think of examples. Honestly, I can't. I feel like Mickey might have been like Dracula or something. And Minnie was dressed like a witch with like a witch's hat, though she's taking it to a new level this year to become a Sanderson sister. But yeah, and Goofy, I want to say Goofy was like a mummy when I went. And then Donald just like didn't make the ship in time, so he wasn't there. Typical. But honestly, that's cute. I don't know that I would do it every time. Like, I feel like if you're on the ship and it's your first Halloween on the high seas, it's worth it. But it is definitely no deck party, nighttime spectacular like on Marvel or Star Wars days at sea, which I'm just calling those particular ones out because those have really themed days. And I feel like Halloween on the high seas is a little less themed than that, in my humble opinion.
I agree. I think the one difference is as long as you're on a 4-day or longer, you'll have a full day Halloween celebration. So in the evening is probably when you'll have that Mickey's Masquerade party. And they've also added, and I think this is kind of cool, because there's a lot of people that are not sailing with kids and still love the whole Halloween vibe. And they are going to start a villainous takeovers, the adult exclusive venues. So looking forward to that. Hopefully that's going to be, they could have a lot of fun with that, especially for the adults that want to dress up and take part of that.
I hope that what they literally mean is that Cruella de Vil is just like heckling people in the bars. Like, I just want villains to be mean. I want them to just be like mean to all the adults on the ship. And I feel like that is my version of a Disney Halloween.
Because they changed, what is it? The Top of the World Lounge for the DVC members. It's
got villainy, like a right?
Theme. Yeah. But they don't have any characters up there. So this it sounds like hopefully they're going to have some characters because when they say villainous takeover, hopefully they'll have some characters doing some things, maybe, hosting trivia or whatever else they're going to be doing. Maybe could you imagine like if Cruella de Vil hosted like Match Your Mate or something like that?
The Disney's lawyers have absolutely vetoed this idea before you even spoke it, Steve. But yes, that would be amazing.
All right, let's turn to some other things. You will also find Halloween themed movies. You talked about this already, Chris. You want to touch on that one more time?
Yeah, so Funnel Vision will play some movies. They'll even play some movies in the theaters. In past sailings, they've done a Nightmare Before Christmas showing as the main dinner show or the main evening entertainment, where you would go to the main theater and watch Nightmare Before Christmas, but there would be in-theater effects. So like when it snows, they make it snow, stuff like that.
They have a Jack and Sally meet and greet.
Yeah, the other thing that is connected to that is a Jack and Sally meet and greet. So you would get to see Jack Skellington and Sally, which, I did mention that Hocus Pocus is Disney's sort of like Halloween IP, and I knew that there was someone screaming, "You're wrong, it's also Nightmare Before Christmas." But arguably Nightmare Before Christmas is a West Coast thing. I'm not saying that they don't celebrate that in Florida, but we literally have a ride that is Nightmare Before Christmas themed in LA, and it is honestly the best holiday layover that Disney's ever done. And so there is a huge loyal following for Nightmare Before Christmas. And I could see some mega fans sailing on these cruises just to get these extra experiences with Jack and Sally.
I mean, like, what is it? You have to wait hours to see Jack and Sally at the Mickey's
in the parks. Yeah. So, it's wild. It's wild.
And to your point, when they do the Nightmare Before Christmas makeover of Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, that is by far my favorite. My kids didn't even know that what the real Haunted Mansion was, because the first 3 times we went, it was like Christmas time. And so they never actually seen the Haunted Mansion. They
It's
just
a good layover. It is so good. It's thorough. They crossed every T and dotted every I.
So one more thing that we experienced, which I thought was really cool when we went on the Dream, they had a fun show. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and it was this ghost stories from an old sea ship captain, and they played it on the funnel vision, and it was just him up there telling. It was a movie, but it was him up there telling ghost stories from the sea, and it was like super creepy because it was at night, and the mist was kind of coming in as we were sailing along, and it was just I mean, it's to your point, nothing too scary. Like Disney doesn't ever get too scary, but it pushes the envelope just enough to make it a little eerie up there, which I thought was super cool. So they do have some fun things like that planned as well. So look for that on the app. They'll also have Halloween activities. I know that Amber, good friend of the show, she and her daughter have done a lot of these featuring crafts and Halloween themed trivia as well. Chris, do you have any guidance? I tried to find guidance on Halloween costumes, just in general. What is Disney's normal guidance? I don't think you're allowed to have guns or anything like that, toy guns. But
yes, no, you may not. I do believe that they are allowing plastic or toy swords because of the whole lightsaber controversy. Like, you can't have Galaxy's Edge and then be like, no toy swords, because that's literally what the entire franchise is built on. But check the know before you go, because they'll tell you specifically what toys aren't allowed. But the big one is that adults may not wear things that cover their faces, like masks. I do think that rule is actually suspended for like Star Wars, for example. I believe I've seen random ship people wearing stormtrooper outfits. So again, like, check out the know before you go to be entirely sure what is or isn't allowed, but people get into it. I saw some super cute outfits. Seth and I dressed up as wilderness explorers, and we were the talk of the ship, if I do say so myself. Everybody just wanted to be us.
And I think Cinderella was your biggest fan, wasn't she?
Yeah, we were like walking around the ship, and we found Cinderella in one of the theaters, and nobody had come to visit her. So we came to visit her and had a fun time there. So I feel like you can go as heavy or as light on the costumes as you want. You can have fun with it. Do know, though, that you won't be trick-or-treating if you're an adult, unless they've changed the rules. But at least on the Halloween on the High Sea that I went on, they give you a trick-or-treating bag in your cabin, and then you go from treat trail to treat trail with that. But I think it really is like kid-centric. But it's possible that they've changed the rules and adults are able to do it now that COVID rules have lightened. Steve, have you heard anything about the plan to let adults trick or treat?
No, I haven't at all. I was going to let you kind of talk about that as far as trick or treating goes.
But what we can say is we were not allowed to trick or treat on our sailing. And that's fine. It's okay. I guess we don't need the chocolate. But if you go to Oogie Boogie Bash in California, you as an adult will get more candy than you have ever decided you wanted. And they probably do that at Mickey's Not So Scary too, where it's just like whoever has a ticket can get candy. But the treat trails are epic in the parks, but not so much on the ships.
So we've talked about a lot of different things here. Kind of think of it as themed cruise, but it's not going to be the 24/7 Halloween on there. There's going to be a lot of activities, so make sure that you check the app to find out the ones that you want to go to. Just know on a 3-night sailing, if they combine Halloween with Pirate Night, they end up having to do it the same day. So really watch that as far as being able to get to those activities, because once it's done, they'll even change the music. It's Halloween music in the morning, and then by the time late afternoon comes around, you've got the Pirates of the Caribbean music going on and everything like that. So if you're on a 3-night sailing, just be on your toes and be ready to go if you want to experience some of these things. It'll be a little bit different on the 4-night sailings and beyond that. And then check the know before you go for the costume stuff as well. And if you're not getting enough information through the app, you can always call Disney Cruise Line and ask them themselves, and hopefully they can give you a little bit of guidance as far as like if there's like some type of special costume that you want to bring and you're not quite sure if you can. Anything else that we've missed, Chris?
I'll just say that, like Steve went before the pandemic on the Dream, and then we sailed during the pandemic on the Wonder. So we are acknowledging that it's possible some of these policies have changed, but this episode gives a general vibe for what this type of sailing is. And Steve, in general, would you recommend, if you're a Disney cruise fan, you try it?
Oh, definitely. I love going to the parks at Christmas and Halloween time because it kind of puts you into that mood. And I think being on the cruise ships at these times and these type of sailings kind of does the same thing.
Agree. It's worth it. It's if you're a DCL cruise fan, then this should be on your bucket list. Why not? Just like Very Merry Time, just like I'm jealous of all the people who get to go on the Pixar Day at Sea next year. I think these themed days add a new experience, and who doesn't want a new experience on their favorite thing? So I'm a fan.
And Disney or Mickey dressed up as a vampire kind of I love he's like one of my favorite characters. That's one of my favorite Mickey like iterations, I guess. So
yeah.
Well, before we finish up, Chris, you're down in Disneyland. What is happening at Disneyland? Oogie Boogie Bash is coming on. I know that you and Seth and your kid are going to be going to that. What's planned down there in Disneyland?
Yeah, so Oogie Boogie Bash takes place in California Adventure. It is a extremely popular event. It sells out so fast. We were able to get tickets and we're going in September because we wanted to go on a weekend. So they had that availability in September, at the end of September. I would say that from what I have heard, Oogie Boogie Bash is superior to Not So Scary, but I'm sure there will be reasons to like either. I've never been to either, so it's hard for me to say, but I am told it is excellent, and I am very excited to go and see it for myself. So yeah, it is Nightmare Before Christmas themed lightly because it's hosted by Oogie Boogie, who is the like green burlap sack monster from Tim Burton's movie. But I would say they do some extra special stuff. Like they have this place called Villains Grove, which is like the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail gets taken over and they put lighting and mist effects and there's villains hiding in there. And it's kind of got like it's the closest Disney's ever gotten to like a scary maze. It's not really a scary maze, but it's kind of a scary maze. So there's stuff like that. And there's tons of trick-or-treating. Like I said, you can get so many treats. We are super excited for the Oogie Boogie Bash.
So Disney World and Mickey's Not So Scary, they have the Sanderson sisters do a show in front of the castle. Did they do any type of show, special show for Oogie Boogie Bash?
Yeah, they have a Halloween themed World of Color.
Okay.
And you can only see that by going to Oogie Boogie Bash. I don't think they show it every night. I think it's an Oogie Boogie exclusive, but I might be wrong about that too. I'm pretty sure it's Oogie Boogie exclusive.
And then one last thing, do they still have the Headless Horseman? Because we saw the Headless Horseman for the first time when we were at Disneyland and went to one of the parties down there.
Yeah, they do. They have Headless Horseman. I think they have like a cavalcade or like those people who scrape the grave diggers. And they've got stuff like that.
Well, as we get out of here, any final thoughts, Chris, about Halloween on the High Seas, Halloween in general as it starts up, or Oogie Boogie? You've talked a lot of different things here.
No, I'm excited. I think the holidays in the parks are another reason to go do it. Certainly, we are in agreement on that. I love going to the parks during the holidays, and I would recommend it. I would say, don't plan your entire vacation budget around going on these cruises because, there's not that much added value, but it's certainly something new, fresh, and fun.
I agree there. So as we get out of here, I want to wish everybody the best if they're heading out on the high seas with Halloween on the High Seas and experiencing all that Disney Cruise Line is bringing to the holidays. And we will be back with another mini-sode once the Halloween season is over and it magically turns to Christmas on the ships right after October 31st. Because November 1st sailings, they get the tree up already.
They do it right away. And do stay tuned. We are going to release a special episode. We actually got a ton of feedback from listeners that they like when we cover things happening at Disneyland because there's just not as many podcasts that cover Disneyland as there are podcasts that cover Disney World. So we are going to do an episode on our experience at Oogie Boogie Bash, just so you all can get a sense of what that was like.
Yeah, definitely look for a little bit more Disneyland content. We'll try and add that on to the end of shows where we can to make sure we touch on that. Because like you said, there's just, unfortunately, one of my favorite Disneyland podcasts, Nostalgia, just quit this year. It was one of the few ones that I used to listen to. It has a lot of Disney history and everything else. I love that one. So we'll try and bring a little bit more and appreciate you doing that, you and Seth, Chris. So well, as we get out of here, all the best to everybody. Thanks for coming back and taking a listen. And we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. For those of you who will be sailing with Disney Cruise Line on the Halloween on the High Seas sailing, we want to wish you and your families all the best and just have a spooktacular time out there on the seas. As always, we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters who help bring this show to you each and every week ad-free. If you'd like to find out more about our Patreon program and supporting our show, you can go to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of you who've gone over to iTunes recently and left us a review. That helps us get a little bit better known in the podcasting, the Disney Cruise Line podcasting, and just the Disney podcasting community in general. Thank each and every one of you who've taken the time to do so. If you have not done so yet, we sure would appreciate it. Once again, that helps us get the word out about our show and helps other people find it. Well, between now and our next show, if you are heading out on a Disney cruise, or if you're heading down to the parks, headed out with Adventures by Disney, or just trying to figure out what's going on as school starts and the kids are back this fall, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us here at the DCL Podcast, we want to wish you to be well, enjoy time with family and friends, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.